Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we're looking at Batman issue 121. This is the final installment of the Abyss storyline, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Jorge Molina and Mikel Janin, colors by Tomeu Morey, letters by Clayton Cowles, cover by Jorge Molina. Now Lex Luthor and Batman have had to team up. It appears to be that the Batmen have turned against Batman and are siding with Abyss, but things aren't exactly what they seem, and it looks like Lex Luthor may have had a hand in Abyss's creation. It looks like Batman Inc. may not be necessarily against Batman, but we're left with a pretty unsatisfying ending that appears to be leading into Shadow War Alpha, and I really don't have a whole lot of interest in that because it looks like Ghostmaker and Clown Hunter are returning, as well as Prometheus. Then there's the backup story with They Make Great Pets, story, art, and letters by Karl Kerschl, colors by Dave McCaig, edited by Ben Abernathy, and Mia and Batman are wrapping up their little adventure together, but Mia's not done getting herself in trouble just yet because there is one more Kappa that they have to deal with. And of course we're left with a kind of wholesome ending. It's really lame. The storyline just doesn't fit with the main book. The main story is much darker than this backup. The backup is clearly written at a younger audience level and probably should have been a one-shot instead. That's the problem I have with all these serialized backups. They're better off as one-shot stories in single issues under like a Tales of or Legends of the Dark Knight kind of thing than they are as these really disjointed backup stories that often don't fit the tone of the main story. And that's been kind of a problem with DC for a very long time. The main story ended up being a bit hokey and forced, and it used some cliches that I would expect more out of a cartoon, a really boring little kid cartoon that really just didn't fit the narrative. This was a very weak finale. There were some interesting ideas here, but it looked like this issue probably was one of those, alright, you need to wrap up the storyline issues, because it seems so forced and ham-fisted with the way it ended. It could have been a much better ending if it had had more space to do the big reveals, instead of the way it was handled, which the cover, while done pretty well, is a giant lie because Ghostmaker's only in this for like 2 panels. And that's at the very end of the book, when they're setting up the Shadow War. So I thought that was a bit of a lie. But again, the main story was really weak as an ending. I was really enjoying the storyline up until this point, but it just fell flat on its face. It looked like it was forced and rushed. They were trying to wrap it up an issue earlier than it probably should have been. And there's references to things that you have no idea what they're talking about. Like Batman has to leave suddenly at the end of the issue, and it references you to a Detective Comics issue, but then it immediately jumps into the epilogue where they're setting up the Shadow War, and they don't give you enough to work with for either of those storylines. And this entire issue just was really rushed and had that same problem. It really looked like it was just thrown together at the last minute. I have a hard time recommending this story arc. It was pretty terrible ending for what was actually not too bad of a story otherwise. But there were some decent action scenes. The art's okay. The backup story again is completely different than the main story, so it just doesn't fit in. So if this is something you're interested in, grab it out of a discount bin because I don't see this being worth much, or buy the trade really cheap. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.